I'm gonna hand you back over to Mrs. Hessler to paint some walls twice.
Okay. Okay, I'm glad we're back like normal. So we're going to do the, a gallon of paint covers 220 square feet. So we're going to paint the walls twice. So that'll be 2W, and the total wall area is 220. And so that would reduce to 1W over 220, over 120, because I'm dividing by 2. Sorry. And so that's answer choice A. Okay, does that make sense, Justin?
Yes.
Good. Zoe Robson
Yeah.
and Zoe Latham.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now we're back to normal, sort of. So I got to go all the way down to where we are, which will be, I still have to go back to those 2 problems. I'm not forgetting about them. And you guys understand what I was saying about the labels for these. I think you got it. I just put, like I would just put chocolate to dollars. It takes 2 seconds. Then you would put 4.5 over 10, and you won't make a mistake about putting those labels on. Okay, so everybody understand what I meant about putting labels on it? Because you don't have to think so hard if you do this. This is the key strategy for any ratio. Also knowing if it's part to part or part to whole. Okay, so now we're going to go to capture, recapture. So I don't know if you've ever done this, but this is how they find out how many deer are in a forest. They can't, or even with elections, they can't go out and interview everybody. Okay, so what they do is they capture a sample and then they count the tagged ones. So we're going to try, look at an example. So if a container contains a whole lot of ping pong balls and a student has 60 balls from the container, he marks them. So we know, we can look down below here. This is what I mean about putting the labels on. So the numbers tagged would be 5 out of the total, all the balls is 90. Tagged in the total population would be 60 over X, and then we would find out there's 1080. So let's try number 1. A biologist removes 200 fish from a lake, tags them. So we're going to put tag over the total. Here's our sample. And here's the whole lake. I don't know if you've ever done any work with this. Some people who took environmental biology would have had to work with this. Okay, so we know that when we have 250 fish in the whole lake that are tagged. We don't know how many fish are in the lake yet. The total sample is 75, and there's only 5 that are tagged. So now we could just cross multiply, and I'll let you do that. Okay, Zoe Latham, what did you get?
I got D.
Yes, good. Zoe Robson, are you good with that?
Yeah.
And Justin?
Yes.
Okay, good. We're doing the same thing. There was one of these on test 5, so, and you'll see this on the ACT too. So let's look at this one. We have the high school, and I don't have to write it all out over the town. And so I have my sample to the total. And I'm trying to find out how many people are in the town. So I don't know, but in my sample, I have 200 people, 40 are in high school. So now, and I know that the high school has 1,200. So you can cross multiply that. I'll let you take the time to do that. So Justin, what did you get for a number?
I'm still working on.
Okay, I'm sorry. I need another
That's
zero.
240,000. Or, yeah,
You sure?
yeah, 40x equals 240,000. So then when you divide by 40. you
Yeah.
get the answer.
So Elatham, did you get 6,000?
Yeah.
Good. Zoe Robson.
Yeah.
Good. And Justin, are you good now?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, the next page. Oh, we're all the way into percents. Okay. So in percentage problems, you're given two pieces of information. So the percent is the part over the whole times 100. The part is the percent over 100. That's how your teachers do your grades. So it's pretty easy. We're not going to go through all these because you could use your calculator, right? You could use your calculator here. So 1/2 would be 50%. I know this is strange, but this is on both tests. And so I'm not going to fill these all in because you could just use your calculator. So let's go down to do the example. So this is because I taught middle school, if we have 45% of means multiply. So what I do is drop the percent. You might have learned, go 2 to the left. With middle school kids, I just say make a little but. So this will be 0.45 times 100, which will be 45. I know we're starting easy. So 1%, I drop the percent and I make a little but. So it'll be 0.01 times 600, which would be 6. If I had a multiple percent, I would do 0.60 times 0.50 times 30. And that would give me 9. Now this one's tricky. This would be an end zone problem. Because if we had a glass of water and you had to give 1/4 of it was salt, you would definitely taste it. But if it was 1/4 of a percent, you would probably not even notice. So we're going to do 0.25%, drop the percent, move it 2 over, 0.0025 times 4, and that will just give me 0.01. And this is how teachers do your grades. So 9 over 25, if you got 9 right on a quiz, that would be 0.36, which would be 36%. Okay, let me just say, is everybody good so far? Zoe Latham, you're good so far?
Yeah.
Good. Zoe Robson.
Yeah.
Good. And Justin?
I'm good.
Good. Okay, so I want to do some book problems. So we're gonna do it, some easy ones. 578, number one. Because every question is 10 points. 578, number one. Okay. A lot of words. So there's 55 kids in the Spanish club. A sample of the Spanish club students were selected at random and asked whether or not they wanted to intend to enroll in a new study program. So 20% responded that they intend to enroll. Based on this survey, which of the following is the best number of students who intend to enroll in the study club? So Zoe Latham, what would you get for that one?
A.
Yes, good. How great. Zoe Robson, are you good with A?
Yeah.
And Justin?
I'm good.
Okay, we're gonna jump it up a little bit. There's gonna be some tricky ones later. This is pretty easy too. 348, number 7. This is almost, but this is module 2. So if we have 300 seeds and 80% sprouted, all we have to do is multiply and we would get 240. And that's a module 2. You okay, Justin, with that?
I'm good.
Good, Zoe Robson
Yeah.
and Zoe Latham.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, now we're gonna go to 418, number 6. Okay, this is a little different. 13 is what percent of 25? So we just have to divide these two numbers. We don't put in a percent sign. You can't even do it, can you, Jim?
You can't, no.
Don't put in a percent sign.
Yeah, they'll tell you which they want. If they want the percent, they'll say percent. If they want the decimal, they'll tell you to put the decimal in.
So here we just divide this and we would get 52. Because they already have the percent in the problem. So Zoe Latham, are you good with this?
Yeah.
Good, Zoe Robson
Yeah.
and Justin.
I'm good.
Okay, good. Let's go on to the next page. There are going to be some, but I mean, I'm just trying to build up. So now I'm on this page. It's page 13 already. So what percent of the campers at Camp Chautauqua are at most, and that's what I want you to focus on this, 11 years old. So it could be 11 and everything lower, right? So it's a lot of kids might put A. A is the trap lots of times. So we have to drop the percent 0.24, 0.12, and 0.14, and we would get 0.50, which would be 50%. And I'm sure you're probably all right with that, but I'm just saying, just trying to notice what you might do in error. So let's look at this one. Based on the data provided, how much more likely is it for an 11-year-old to go than a 9-year-old? Well, now they're not asking you for percent. So the 11-year-old, he would be his mom will sort of trust him, where the 9-year-old not so much, so that'll be divided by 0.14. And we'll just get 1.71 times as likely, because they're not asking for percent. They're asking for times likely. Okay, number 3, I'm trying to give you every kind of problem you might see. So 1/8 over 5/8 would just be 1/5, and that would just be 20%. So Zoe Latham, are you okay so far?
Yeah.
Zoe Robson
Yeah.
and Justin.
I'm
And
good.
Good, and I know Addie is trying out for golf, and she should be here soon. So let's go on the next page. I'm going to have everybody try number 4. Okay, Zoe Latham, did you get B?
Yeah.
Good, Zoe Robson
Yeah.
and Justin.
Yeah.
Good, now this was a little trickier, so I want to see if we get something like this. So the graph above shows the percent of 5th graders at an elementary school who have the indicated number of pets in their house. So 60 have 1 pet. So that means we're trying to get the total before we go further. So we drop the percent. We know 0.30 of the total is 60. So we just divide by 0.30. We find the total number of 5th graders is 200. But we want 2 pets. So that'll be 20%. So we drop the percent, move a 2 over. And we would get 40 kids. I hope I didn't go too fast. So Zoe Robson, are you okay with that type of problem?
Yeah.
Good. Zoe Latham
Yeah.
and Justin?
Yes.
Good. Now this one is tricky because I have to translate English into math. So I'm going to drop the percent, move it 2 over. So I'll have 0.25 times 60 is equal to, drop the percent, 1.25 times what number? And then I'm just going to put this in the calculator. And n should be 12. So take a minute and digest that one. Okay. And you can ask a question. So Zoe Latham, you're good with that one?
Yeah.
Good. Zoe Robson
Yeah.
and Justin.
I'm good.
Okay, now percent, oh wait, this one. So this one, all you'll have to do since you have numbers is you'll just do 0.5 times 37%. We drop the percent, make the little butt. Did you get the number for that, Jim? Or no?
I just took half of the
Yeah.
724 out.
Yeah,
Cause
so,
yeah,
so anyway, it would be A, because half of 724 would be 362. And then, so the answer for this one is A. Okay, so for this one, if n is greater than 0, and you could pick a number or just say 1n over 5 would be 0.20, which would be 20%. But would be okay to pick a number for that one. Okay, so for the next thing, there's an equation there, and I'm going to just do some problems that you don't have. So what we do with these increases or decreases is we take the percent of the decrease or increase, and we always put it over, we take the amount rather, I'm sorry. We put it over the original, always. Times 100. So let's say for the Zoes, we're going to buy a dress for homecoming. And let's say the dress, this is not in your packet, I'm just showing you, it's $120, and when it went down at Macy's to $80. So I would do the difference, which is 40 over the original, which was 120. And so it went down 1/3 or 33 1/3%. So Zoe Latham, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, Zoe Robinson, always over the original.
Yep.
It'll help you when you're shopping. Okay, we'll do one for Justin. So let's say Justin smiles at a girl on a college campus, and next thing he knows, he's married and he has 6 kids. And she says, you have to go out and get a bigger van, dear. So let's say the van last year was 25,000. It went up to, let's say, 60,000, big increase. So that'll be, it went up $35,000, but I put it over the original. And then I would just divide by 5. And it went up 7.5 or 40%. Okay, so if you look at our example back here in the book, in the thing, we have a jacket and it went down from 120 to 100. So it went down $20 over the 120. And that's the secret thing, to remember the original. So it'll be 1/6, the jacket went down 16 2/3%. Okay. Okay, let's go on to the next page and then we'll try a book one. So if a newspaper goes from 5 cents to 15 cents, we do the amount of the increase, which was 10, over the original, which was 5. And so that will be 2, which is 200%. And I would just put 200 in there. So let's try a book one. I'm so glad we have the screen back. Oh. So we're going to go to 574. I think it's a hard one, number 17. Okay, now this is important when we go over this one. So the population of city A increased by 7% from 2015 to 2016. If it's K times as much, now A is a trap answer. So let's say there was 100 people in the town. It's a little town. if it went up 7%, if we just tried A, we would have only 7 people. So what I want you to see is that A is a trap because it's only the increase. So I have to do 100. I have to do times 1.07 because I need 107 people. Does everybody see that? Do you see that, Zoe Latham?
So that one stands for 100%.
Yeah. Do you see the trick there? I don't want the increase. I want all the people in 2016. So Zoe Latham, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to be, and Zoe Robson
Yeah.
and Justin.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna pick C for this one because you want, they have A dangling out there as a nice trap, but we're not gonna fall for it. Okay, so now we're going to the packet again. So they give us an equation. The whole GDP equals, or per capita, per person equals the whole GDP. Sorry. Over the total people.
Population, yeah.
Population. So let's try number 2. According table, we're going to 2000. And so if this was my test, I would probably just highlight that so I don't look at something I shouldn't. So we want to get the whole population. So we want to say 26,000 equals the whole 130 million people over X. We could just put this over 1. So if you cross multiply this,
You're
Times X.
dividing, yeah.
Yeah. And you should get answer choice C. I'm going to have you do a book one in a second on this. Okay, so the next one we're going to do, we want to get the increase in population. This would be a hard one. Between 1990. So in 1990, we're going to look at the thing again. We have 32,000. That's going to be,
That's your denominator.
yeah, over 128 million people.
Yeah, that's the numerator.
Yeah.
120 million over 32,000.
120 million, is it?
128 million
Okay.
divided by 32,000. Because you're trying to find the population.
Right.
So your starting population will be 4,000.
Yeah, so if we divide that by 32,000, that's the per capita. This, I would get, not to worry, you get 4,000.
So that's the starting. And then
So
you gotta
that's the
do-
starting. Now we
yeah.
got to do another one. We
you
got
gotta
to,
do 2010.
okay, so we're going to use the same formula. The GDP per capita, per person.
That's the denominator. GDP is the numerator.
Yeah, but this is per capita. So that's going to be the whole GDP over the population. So that's going to be 26,000.
Well, that's the denominator. 148 million over 25,000 actually.
So we're trying to get the number of people.
Yeah, you will. So you take the GDP divided by the GDP per capita and you just get the capita, the people.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what it is. It's going to be 5920.
Yep.
So now I take the amount of the increase, which is 1920, over the original, which was my $4,000. And I'm gonna get 40%.
48.
48, you sure?
Yeah. So you took 5920.
Oh, yeah.
4,000.
Okay, yeah,
So that'd be 1920 divided by 4,000,
yeah.
which is 48%.
So we're good with that one. So let's try a book one that deals with this. And we're gonna go to page 256 at the bottom, the example there. So basically what we want to get is all the people over the square miles.
Yeah.
That's our goal. So if we have 30 square miles,
And if you like dimensional analysis, you could use that for this
yeah,
as well, or just make a ratio. Also, you have to add the square miles together or you're gonna get the wrong answer.
yeah. So we have to add the people. And that'll be 25. And then we have to add the square miles, which is 30 and 50, which we're dividing by 80. And so we should get 320 people per square mile. So I'll give you a minute to digest that.
Yeah, for this type of problem, I kind of like to use the dimensional analysis just because it's nice because the units will always disappear and you'll end up in the right units. In this case, people per square mile, but you can do it either way.
So Zoe Latham, did you get 320?
Yeah.
Are you still working? Zoe Robson.
Yeah.
Okay, and Justin?
I'm
Still working. So we're getting all the people over all the square miles. But I had to figure out,
Because the miles are different for each one, she had to calculate each one.
yeah, I had to
separately.
calculate each one separately. Okay, does that make sense? Justin? Sort of?
that makes sense, yes.
Oh, good, okay. So back to the packet. And we're making good progress right on page 17. If the value of a certain building went from 1.6 million to 2 million, so we're going to take the amount of the increase. I know it's weird that you're going to get tested on ratios and percents over the original. So the increase will be 0.4 million. I'll put it over the original. And that will equal 0.25 or 25%. Okay, so now with this one, this is hard to believe. Whoops. So in 1950, now they know we can't get this exact. So we want to take the amount of decrease, so we don't have to put a negative sign in here. So in 1950, I'm going to say it's about 5.4 million. And I'm going to 2010, and that's about what?
2.25.
2.25. They know you can't get it exact. So then I'm going to take,
3.15 divided by the 5.4 you started.
so I take the amount of the decrease, which is 2.75, right?
No, 3.15 over the original, which was 5.
Oh, I had 5.4, that's right.
Yeah,
Wasn't just 5.
yeah, so 3.15 over 5.4.
Over the original, which is going to be approximately,
Approximately 58%, but it's close enough to be.
and they know you
You know,
can't.
we're 2% off. That's pretty good for just eyeballing it.
Yeah. So is everybody good with that one? Let's see, Zoe Latham,
Yeah.
Zoe Robson,
Yeah.
good, and Justin.
Yes.
Okay, good. So we're gonna go. Okay, where I want to go with this one is um 275. Okay, we're gonna try some hairy ones. You ready? I mean, difficult. Okay,
Wait, are you gonna describe the double percent increase
Yes.
first before you try these? Like
Oh.
maybe do some ones from the packet, because you didn't talk about picking a
okay,
100 or
let's
anything.
go to the packet first. Sorry. So let's do this example. So he's right, I probably should start
Yeah,
with
so for the double percent increase or decrease, we like to always pick 100, even if it doesn't make sense. Like if your town has 100 people, it wouldn't make real sense, but it makes the math much easier.
Yeah,
So just assume the town has 100 people.
so we always start with 100. And then we'll do the book problems and you'll see.
Or assume the phone is $100, you know,
Yeah.
just makes the math easy.
It makes the math easy. It's nothing. So we have 100 people. We go up 50%. So that'll be 150. And then we're going up another 30%. So a lot of people would say, oh, 50 plus 30 is 80. But
Trap,
that's a
trap.
trap. That's a trap.
You have to track the percent as you go.
So 150 times 0.30 would be 45. So that would go up to 195, and that's
You
the
put it
beauty.
over the original. Always put it over the original.
And so that's an increase of 95%.
So 195 over 100.
Yeah,
Right.
does that make sense? Zoe Latham.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is our little secret.
I
Start
mean,
with that.
you could start with anything, but it just makes the math so much easier.
Yeah,
to
and
be-
Zoe Robson, are you good?
Yeah.
And Justin.
Yes.
Okay, so let's look at a computer, and then we'll try those book ones. So we have a computer, we're just gonna call it $100. It's going down by 25%. So it'll go down to $75. And that's going down another 20%. So we'll be taking 50. So it's going all the way down to $60. Doesn't matter that you couldn't get a computer for that. But then you see from 100 down to 60 is 40%. Does that make sense? And let's try the phone and then we'll try a couple book ones. So we're starting a phone. We're calling it $100. I know today's market not really reasonable. So it's going up by 10%. So that'll be $10, so it'll go up to 110. And then it's gonna go down 25%, which is $27.50. And when I subtract that from the 110, I'm gonna get $82.50. Does that make sense? I hope it does. We're gonna try some book ones. It's just easy to start with 100. So what I was gonna do was go to 275. We're gonna do 13, and then we're gonna do 14. So if everybody get to 275. Now, these are the hardest ones, the book says, and these would be at the end on both the SAT and ACT. So let's look at 13. So basically, we have crane flies. Doesn't sound very nice here. Ladybugs, I like ladybugs.
So you're just calling the ladybugs 100, I guess?
Yeah, so I'm gonna say I have 100 nice ladybugs.
It doesn't need to make sense. It just,
Right.
the math's easy.
And the crane flies are 30% less. So that would be 70. And then the number of honeybees, and they're needed to pollinate, they're 85% greater. So I have to do 1.85 times 70, and I will get
129.5.
And so how many times, and I put that over the original, that's the tricky part, and I will get, the answer for this one is 1.295. But you probably haven't had these kind of questions.
You could do the algebra too if you prefer, but Mrs. Hessler really likes picking 100. It just makes the math easy.
Yeah,
But if you wanted to, you could say C equals 0.7L and do it algebraically, but you don't need to.
yeah, and the crazy,
Whichever way you want to do it.
and the crazy thing is they asked how many times the number. So you're not even interested in a percent. That's why you have to divide by 100.
Oh, maybe I just wanted to ask them, who would pick 100 and who would just do the algebra? I'm just curious because this is a smart.
Well, let
group.
me ask Zoe Latham, would you do the algebra or would you just pick a number?
I would just pick 100.
Yeah, I think it's good strategy. Zoe Robson
I would just pick 100 too.
and Justin.
I just pick 100.
Okay, let's do this for 14. So we're on that same page. You don't have to move anywhere. Okay, so we'll call B 100. And this, not many kids would be able to do this correctly. So the positive number A is 210% of B. So we're just going to do 2.1 times 100. So A is going to be 210. And then we have C here. Now, it says B, oh, A is 30%. So A is going to be 0.30 times C. So we'll say A is 210, and we're going to divide by 0.30. And that's going to give us 700, right?
Yeah, 700.
And then we're going
So
to
that's P%.
P% of B. And so we would just grid in 700.
And again, you could do the algebra if you wanted to. I tend to do the algebra. Mrs. Hessler likes to pick number.
I like to use 100 because that anchors me. So Justin, do you see how that's 700?
Yes.
Good. How about you, Zoe Robson
Yeah.
and Zoe Latham?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, on the next page, let's see, we did all those. I'm gonna do one more. And Zoe, you just let us know when you have to leave, okay?
I'll probably go after this next question.
Okay. Yeah, so this is a hard one. So we're going to finish with you on a hard one. So in the book, we're going to page 580. We're doing number 12, so you can see it's a hard one. We're not going to pick 100. We're just going to use their figures. But we have three prices to arrange. We have wholesale. We have retail. And then at the end of the season, we have the sale price. So let's go through this. So the wholesale price is $7. Then the retail price is 290%. So I'm going to take 290%, drop the percent sign, put a 2 over. So 7 times 2.9 is going to give me 2030. So the retail price they're going to sell to all the summer visitors, they're going to mark it up to $20.30. Then it says the remaining souvenirs are marked at a discounted price that is 80% off. So if instead of doing 80% off, I'm just going to do 20%. So I don't have to do 2 steps. So I'll just take that times 0.20. And I am out here without any answers, but it will be 4.06. So let's see, I'll have everybody take a second and do that, and then we'll release the one, Zoe. So, and then I'll just keep going, Zoe, and you can watch it later, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. Zoe Latham, did you see how I got 406 with that?
Yeah.
That was a hard one. What about you, Zoe Robson?
Yeah.
Good. And Justin?
I got it.
Good. I think it's just easier to keep this intact. Okay, so Zoe, you have to go. I know you have something you have to do, so
Yep. Thank you.
you are so welcome. Okay, so so we're doing good. Okay, we're back in the packet. In a high school class, so we're just going to say there's 100 people. 70% decide to go on a field trip, so that's 70. So we're 70%. And then only 10% decided or didn't go, so that meant 7 people didn't go. So we're left with 63%. And again, the beauty of picking 100 when you're tracking percents. So we're not going to do this one because they don't have any, they said they were doing banking problems, but they're not, and we haven't seen any of these. So we're going to go to the dimensional analysis. You're not going to see this one this hard. So let's just go to number 1. They sent us some problems in the beginning that said they indicated they were going to do those really hard ones. We're almost done. Yeah.
Right, there'll probably be only 2 or 3 unit conversions. They're not gonna make you convert,
Yeah,
that many
You're
times.
not going to have to do this. So we're going to do just here, I'm just going to use ratios. So I have pounds, and then I have ounces. Just put OZ. So that's the beauty of just putting the labels there. So if we have 54 wait, it's not pounds really, it's
Well, you need to put it in ounces, because they want 2 pounds, but you know, it's 16 ounces in a pound, so that'll be 32 ounces.
okay, so 54 will be
Then 0.8 over 54.
and so we're changing, this will be 32,
Yeah, so I took,
2 pounds.
yeah,
a
2
pint
pounds is
of-
32 ounces.
So a pint's a pound the world around. So 1 pound is 16, 2 pounds would be 32. And then I would just cross multiply and I would get 2160. Thank you, College Board, for 10 points. Okay, now we don't have to do this hard one because they're not putting those on the test. So they do not give you the density formula. But we sort of showed you at the beginning that density, it's I love density. So density, you put a heart there and you realize it's mass over volume. Okay. So they do not give you this formula. They used to, but they don't. So we did one here. So we use that formula, mass over volume. So we take the mass of it. Now they gave us this number. We have to calculate the denominator. We have to multiply all these out. Because remember, the rectangle is length times width times height. And then we get the density. So let's go to number 1. Okay. So we start with our formula. So we have 3150 grams. That's our mass. The density is going to be 10.5 over 1. And we're trying to get the volume. So we'll just put the V there. So V is going to be 10.5 V equals 3150. And so our volume should be 300. So Zoe, Justin, did you get that?
Yes.
Oh, good. Zoe Latham?
Yeah.
Good, good. Okay, let's try another one. I'm just flipping it up on you, so we're going to use the same formula.
And they don't put that on the formula page. You just
No.
have to know it.
I know. So a diamond is pretty hard. It's 3.5 and its volume is 1.5. We have to see what the mass is. So we're just going to multiply 3.5 times 1.5 and you would get 5.25. So is that good? Zoe Latham, is that good for you?
Yeah.
Thank you, Justin. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try the last one. So we have mass over volume. We have to work on calculating the volume. 2 times 2 times 13, which will be 52. And it's 50 grams. And we're trying to get the density. And so water is 1. So wood floats, so it should be less than water. And this should be 0.96. Is that good, Zoe Latham?
Yeah.
Good. Justin?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, let's try a book one. I'm gonna let you try this totally solo. You come up with the formula and everything. So we're gonna do page 580, number 9.
It's fun to take a test.
You can talk about
Okay.
it. Okay. See, they don't give you the formula, but you're good. Okay, Zoe Latham, did you get D?
No, it's A.
Wait, what did I do?
I don't know, it's 807 divided by 0.729.
Did I get the wrong number?
Or wait, why did I think it's A?
I don't think it's A, I think it's D. Zoe Latham, did you get D?
I got A.
You got A.
Yeah, I think it is A.
Oh, wait, hold on. Yes, it is A, I'm sorry. Ah,
It's just 807 times 0.729.
yes, so it's A, sorry. I apologize, guys. So that would be 588.
Yeah, 807 times 0.729, and they say to the nearest whole number, so just 588.
Justin, did you get that A?
I got A.
Okay, Mrs. Hessler apologizes. I want to do one more thing, and it's gonna relate, we're gonna build on this next week. It'll only take me about 5 minutes here. It deals with functions too, so I want to go to an easy question in the book. So let's go to 418, number 7. Okay. So you're gonna get one of these, and I just want to be sure we're all good. So number 7 on 418. A model predicts that the population of Springfield was 15,000 in 2005. So, and then each year, it's for the next 5 years, it's going up by 4%. And what this is based on is banking thing. Interest is the principal times the rate times the time. But you don't have
To
to,
the exponent.
yeah. Okay. So anyway, we start with the 15,000 always. That's your principal or what you're going to start with. And then it's going by 4% up. But remember, we don't put 0.04, we have to put 1.04 because we want the whole population,
Not just the increase.
not just the increase, which would be 0.04. And so to the time, and so that answer will be D. Are you okay with that, Justin?
I am.
Oh, good. Zoe Latham?
I'm good.
Good. We're gonna try a couple more of
And you
these.
can always check year 0 and you have to get the 15,000 back.
Yeah.
So you instantly know it can't be the other one.
So if you put 0 in there, you know,
It can't be
you
A or
just get
B.
15,000 back, because a number to the 0 power is 1. So if you just put 0 years, you get the principal. Okay, let's try a couple more of these. We'll do these more next week. Another one, what was that? That was on 418. So let's go to 420, number 14. Okay, this one's a little harder. I want you to handle anything they give you. The function f of t equals 60,000 times 2, and then we have the time, which is t over 410. And so we know how much time in minutes does it take for the bacteria to double.
So that 2 stands for 200%. That's the doubling. That's your rate.
So that's our rate. So remember, it's principal.
So 0 minutes should give you 60,000, what you started with.
So if you put in 0, you should get out 60,000. But we want to get out.
You want one single doubling.
We want one to single doubling. So we need this thing to equal 1. Does that make, so that'll be t over 410 equals 1. So t has to equal 410. Okay. Does that make sense, Justin?
It does.
Okay, Zoe Latham, does that make sense to you?
Yep.
Okay, it's a little hard. Did you ever have problems like this in school, Justin? Or not really?
I think I did, but this
Okay.
was on the last SAT practice test I took, this exact one.
Oh, really? Was it? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's try another one. I want to try a hard one. We're going to go to 499, number 20. So it's a hard one. And you can see we're at the end of a test, module 1, so it's going to be hard. So we have our formula. So a scientist initially measures, so we have 12,000 bacteria in a growth hour medium. So our formula, remember, is we do our big base thing times the rate times the time, which we don't know, but we know the time is 4 hours. We know this has to double. So we have,
So that's the 2 in your formula.
yeah, so we're going to put a 2 there to the RT. And so we just want.
That's equal to 24,000, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our RT has to equal 1. Well, we know the time is 4 hours. So we put R times 4 equals 1. And so R is going to, dividing by 4, the rate's going to be 1 over 4. Does that makes, that's, you can see where we are. That's an extremely hard one.
Well, the rate is 2, but that is what R is, 1/4.
Yeah, the rate is 1/4.
The rate is 200%.
Oh, yeah, we went
R
200%.
R is just R. R is 1/4.
Oh,
I mean, I think they're trying to trick you.
Yeah, they're
make you
trying to
think it's
trick you.
A rate, but it's not.
so let's see. Zoe Latham, did that make any sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, Justin? It's hard.
This is probably as tricky as they can make this problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Okay, and let's stop with it. Let's do, hold on a minute. Okay, this one isn't so bad because it's just numbers. So we're gonna go to page 505. Number 16. Okay, I'll let everybody get there. Thank you for being patient with us at the beginning. We really appreciate it.
And always try 0 years to make sure you get out the thing you started with.
Yes. So a company opens an account, so we know it's going to be 36,100. The account earns interest. The account balance is given by the function. So after 13 years, so we want to put in 13 for T. And so if we try A, that works, right?
Yeah.
That one wasn't so bad because we just had to try, you just have to try the numbers, but you know C and D wouldn't work.
A will give you that 68,000
Yeah.
that they tell you it is.
Yeah, so it is A. But do you see C and D we don't even want because it's just the increase. So that makes sense. Zoe Latham,
Yeah.
say Hannah, you're here. And Inesh, we're just
Yeah.
about to finish the math.
Okay.
Okay, thank you guys. So maybe we should have them try that one, that hard one.
Which one?
So we're just trying a function problem.
The RT one or the
Yeah.
other? Oh, okay.
So let's just, for you two up in,
It was on 499.
on 499, we just did number 20, and I'll have you two look at that one, then we'll take a break. But this is, we just went over functions. And then we're gonna go on a break. So a scientist initially measures, so this is all based, as you know. But this one is confusing because the R is not the rate, the R is something else. So a scientist initially measures 12,000 bacteria in a growth medium. So we know they want to double it to get to 24,000. So we have 2 RT, and we know that T is 4.
And then that all equals 24,000.
So this will equal, yes, this all equals 24,000.
And they just want to know what R is.
So they want to know what R is. So if we have 4R, RT, I'm sorry, we just want to double it. So we want RT to be 1. So the time is 4. And so the rate will be 1/4.
It's not a rate.
I mean, it's R.
It's just R, yeah.
R will be 1/4. It's not a rate.
The rate is 200%.
The rate is
too.
200%.
Yeah.
So Inesh, you're good with that one?
Yeah.
And Sehana?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, now we're gonna take a break until what, Jim?
Let's take a 10-minute break. So it's 7:15 now, so back at 7:25.
Okay, so I'm sorry you guys just came on and now we're at a break point, but that's
Yeah, you can
good.
grab a snack or
And what
something.
are we doing in the verbal?
We're gonna do craft and structure today.
Oh, it's something called craft and structure.
Yeah, so they're just gonna give Zoe and Justin a break because they've been doing math for.
Yeah, we've been doing math for
Yeah.
a while.
And then we'll be back.
we'll be back at 7:25. So you're right on task. Thank you.
Okay, it's 7:25, so we should be back from our break. I'm just gonna ask the group if you are back.
Yeah, I'm back.
Zoe's back,
Hello.
Justin is
I'm
back,
back.
Sahana's back. All right, so we're gonna do this craft and structure packet.
I'm back.
Oh, okay, Anish is back. All right, so this is 28% of the English on the SAT, this packet. So this is a pretty substantial part of the test. And sentence completions, those are on the ACT as well. So we're going to go over words in context. So we're going to go over sentence completions, text structure and purpose questions, and cross-text connections are the paired passages. So we're going to look at all of these today. All right. So words in context questions will test your understanding of the meaning of words. And these would be words that you would typically see in an academic or professional setting. They sort of cap the difficulty of these words. They only are interested in words that you would typically see in your professional career or, in college. So the SAT for years and years and years used to have more difficult words. They used to have words that we would call tier 3 words, words like pusillanimous, quixotic, perfidy, supercilious. These words they're no longer on the SAT. They don't get that hard anymore. So the words that you need to know, they call tier 2 words. So about medium level, just words that you would see in school or in a professional setting. And so there are sentence completions. They're basically just fill in the blank type questions. And there are also synonym questions. And so the synonym questions, they can actually ask for a word or a phrase. So just be aware, you might be trying to find something that is synonymous with an entire phrase, not just a single word. And yeah, so it's really just fill in the blank. So the strategy is to just read the words back into the sentence. Only one of them will make logical sense, and 3 of the answer choices will produce sentences that are gibberish. So we're going to try that with this sample question here. So try this one. Don't turn the page yet. Give this one a real try. We're just reading these words back into the sentence. I'm going to try biased, and we'll see if it makes sense. The Nature Conservancy has announced that it has broadened the insurance policy it has purchased to protect Hawaii's coral reefs in the event of strong storms. Hawaii is part of a growing catalog of locations that seek to prove that parametric insurance for vulnerable ecosystems is a biased strategy. So that didn't make any sense. I'm going to cross off biased. So if something is biased, it just means it's prejudiced, but it makes no sense in this context. Let's try misguided. And they may be putting an antonym in here. They may be putting a word, the opposite of what we would desire. So let's try misguided. Hawaii is part of a growing catalog of locations that seek to prove that parametric insurance for vulnerable ecosystems is a misguided strategy. So that's the opposite of what we would need. If something is tenuous, it means it's thinly supported. I'm going to try tenuous. And note, I just want to look at these, just look at the charges of these answer choices. I'm going to put pluses for positively charged terms. And if a term is pejorative, if it has a negative connotation, I'm going to put a minus next to it. Biased, minus sign, misguided, minus sign, tenuous, minus sign. But look at our positively charged word viable. If something is viable, it means it is feasible. So I'm going to try that one. Sometimes you can just see, okay, all these words are negative except for this one. And then that might be your right answer. Let's try it. Hawaii is part of a growing catalog of locations that seek to prove that parametric insurance for vulnerable ecosystems is a viable strategy. And that makes perfect sense. So think about the charge of the word as well. You can always read the words back into the sentence. And we're going to try a synonym question next. And this is just an explanation of the strategy we just used. Read the answer choices back into the sentence. It takes 10 seconds. It doesn't take very long. but you will immediately know which one sounds correct. Just use your ear, if that makes sense. All right, so that one was C. On to a synonym question. So they're asking us for a synonym for the underlined word. And again, we can read the words back into the sentence. We can read the other answer choices in here and see which one makes sense. So we're going to try that with this one. All right, the following text is from North and South, a novel published in 1854 through 1855 by author Elizabeth Gaskell. Mrs. Hale was curiously amused and interested by the idea of the Thornton dinner party. She kept wondering about the details, with something of the simplicity of a little child who wants to have all its anticipated pleasure described beforehand. All right, so here we have some answer choices. They want to know what does the word anticipated most nearly mean? So they want a synonym. Watch out for antonyms. All right, I'm going to read some of these words back into the sentence, and let's see what makes sense here. I'm going to try the words preceding and prior, just because they're similar. Let's see if B and C make any sense. I'm just considering them. All right. She kept wondering about the details with something of the simplicity of a little child who wants to have all its preceding pleasure described beforehand. And that doesn't make any sense. And prior wouldn't make any sense either. A little child who wants to have all of its prior pleasure described beforehand. We're going backwards here. I'm going to cross off B and C. Let's try unwanted. Let's see if that makes any sense. She kept wondering about the details with something of the simplicity of a little child who wants to have all its unwanted pleasure described beforehand. Unwanted pleasure, this doesn't make any sense. I'm going to cross it off. But let's try the correct answer choice, which would be A. Let's try awaited. Perhaps anticipated means the same thing as awaited. Just going to read it back in the sentence. All right, so awaited would mean pleasure that is expected or anticipated. The correct answer. Let's give this one a shot. She kept wondering about the details with something of the simplicity of a little child who wants to have all its awaited pleasure described beforehand. And that one makes perfect sense. So you can always read the answer choices back into the sentence with a synonym question or with the fill in the blank style question. And sentence completions are also on the ACT. All right, so this is just our strategy of reading the word back into the sentence. So that one was answer choice A. On to word type. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the word difficulty level in the type of words that they will test you on for the digital SAT. So we said that they were tier 2 words, about medium level. These are words you would see in an academic setting. These are words that you would see in college or in your professional career. And I'm going to go over the types of words that they won't test you on, but I do want to try some from the book because although they say these are tier 2 words, every now and then I see a word that seems questionable to me. Is this really a tier 2 word? This seems harder than, we would normally see. So I do want to show you some from the book just so, I almost think that these sentence completions are getting a little bit more difficult, that, we're kind of blurring the distinction of what a tier 2 word is. I'm gonna show you some harder ones just so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, so let's go over the things that you will not be tested on. You will not be tested on words that are colloquial. These are the words of everyday speech, informal language. So we don't have to worry about those. You will not be tested on words that are derived from niche areas of study. For example, alkaline, this is a term that you might encounter in a chemistry class, but we don't have to worry about it. Anode, bivalve, deontology, this is a word that you would see if you study philosophy. We don't have to worry about it here. Edema, I think that's a skin condition. We don't have to worry about that. You don't have to know what a lien is. That is a legal term. Maybe they put a lien on the house or a lien on the automobile. We don't have to know what it means. Jurisprudence, that's also a legal term. That's literally the study of law. So we don't have to worry about niche terms. We don't have to worry about medical terms or, terms that are specific to a particular branch of science. You will not be tested on words that are uncommonly used. So here are those tier 3 words. These used to be on the SAT. They are no longer on the SAT. They're not going to test you on a word like malediction. Well, what is diction? Diction is speech. The mal means bad. So a malediction, you just combine them together. This is literally a curse, but we don't need to know what it is. A missive is a letter. So if you mailed someone a letter, and signed your name at the bottom, that's just what a missive is. You don't have to know about it. Perfidy. So fidelity is faithfulness. Semper Fi, always faithful, right? The per is going to negate that. Perfidy is treachery, but we don't really have to worry about what it means. Quixotic. If you're quixotic, that means you're like Don Quixote. If you've ever read that novel, you're foolishly idealistic like Don Quixote. So we don't have to worry about these words. I don't know why I'm going over words we don't need to know. But here's a good list of the types of words that you will be tested on. Here is just a list of what we consider to be tier 2 level words. These are words that you would see in college. These are words that you would see in your professional career, whatever that will one day be. They might ask you to analyze something, or they might ask you for an approximation. So just make sure that you're familiar with some of these words. This is about the level of difficulty on the test. This is really not too bad. I would just scan this list. This is not an exhaustive list, but this is just to get an impression of the type of words that they test. I would just make sure that you're familiar with all of these words. You probably are. You probably use these words in your classes now. But I just wanted to give you just a taste of what we're looking for, the type of difficulty. But I also want to try some from the book, because I do think that the words are kind of getting maybe even a little bit harder than this. So I want to just give you a page number. I'm just grabbing my blue book over here. Just because I think that it's almost as if the College Board has pushed back a little bit on these tier 2 words, and they're sneaking some in here that I would consider maybe even a little bit more difficult than these. So I'm just looking for a specific page here. Hold on. I think it's 134. Okay, yeah. So let's try the example on page 135. This is an easy one. So try that one first, then try the example on page 134. And the one on 134 is harder. Make a note that this is the easy example. So try the examples. Don't look at their explanations. Don't look at the answers. Give it a real try. So try the easy one first, then try the harder one. And yeah, then we'll go over them. All right, I'm assuming everyone has had a chance to try them both. I'm going to try the easy one first, and then we'll look at the harder one. So here is the one on page 135. I'm just going to read it out loud. All right, so this is from a novel, Alice Adams. Mrs. Adams had always been fond of vases, she said, and every year her husband's Christmas present to her was a vase of one sort or another, whatever the clerk showed him, marked at about $12 or $14. As used in the text, what does the word marked most nearly mean? And our answer choices are A, stained, B, staged, C, watched, or D, priced. Okay, I'm going to just consider stained. To mark something may mean to stain it. I think that they're just playing around with different dictionary definitions for the the verb to mark. I'm going to read the word stained. I'm just going to use my strategy. Don't overthink it. Just read the words back in the sentence. One will make perfect sense. 3 answer choices will produce gibberish, nonsense. I'm going to try stained. Okay. Every year, her husband's Christmas present to her was a vase of one sort or another, whatever the clerk showed him, stained at about $12 or $14. That makes no sense. I'm going to try priced. Perhaps to mark something may mean to price it. Let's give it a shot. I'm going to try D. Every year, her husband's Christmas present to her was a vase of one sort or another, whatever the clerk showed him, priced at about $12 or $14. And that makes perfect sense. So before you lock in on an answer, just always read the answer choices back in the sentence to see which one works. And that one was D. So that was the easy one. Let's try the harder one on the previous page. And then let's, I am sort of curious what you think. Is this a tier 2 word? All right, look at our answer choices. I think the answer, one of the answer choices in particular, I wouldn't necessarily think that everyone would know that word in an academic or a professional setting, but that they're claiming that one would. I'm going to read the whole question, and then it's just a fill in the blank. Economist Marco Castillo and colleagues showed that nuisance costs, the time and effort people must spend to make donations, reduce charitable giving. Charities can mitigate this effect by compensating donors for nuisance costs, but those costs, though variable, are largely blank donation size, so charities that compensate donors will likely favor attracting a few large donors over many small donors. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? So answer choice A is predictive of. Answer choice B is subsumed in. Is this a tier 2 word? Really? According to the College Board, it is. So I'm just going to make a note here. All right, so to subsume means to absorb. I think that's kind of pushing the difficulty into tier 3 category, in my personal opinion, but they would claim it's a tier 2 word. All right, so that was B. C is independent of, D is supplemental to. Okay, so we have a situation here, and this one's kind of difficult because we also have to consider really carefully what the situation we're talking about means. So if and consider the nuisance cost. What would it mean if we had a few wealthy donors over many small donors? So if we actually have a few small donors and we're giving the same amount of money back to them in the form of, we're compensating them for a nuisance cost. Let's assume it's postage. Maybe we're mailing in our contribution, and we know that there's a nuisance cost associated with contributing to our charity, and this is the postage. So in exchange for your postage for sending in your gift, we're going to give you a $5 gift card to just sort of cover that. If maybe we have 4 donors who are each giving $10,000, and we're giving them $5 gift cards back. Would that really hurt our pockets too much? Not really, right? So if we had just a few big-time philanthropists, they're donating large sums of money. These nuisance costs aren't really going to affect us as a charity. Now assume that we have 1,000 people who are donating $10. And if we want to give them all $5 gift cards, that's going to really, really impact our budget. And that's why answer choice C is the correct answer here. I'm going to read the corrected version. Charities can mitigate this effect by compensating donors for nuisance costs, but those costs, though variable, are largely independent of donation size. So charities that compensate donors will likely favor attracting a few large donors over many small donors. So I just want to go over this tier 2 idea, and I want to mention that, yeah, they are capping the difficulty level of these words. We don't have to worry about quixotic. We don't have to worry about some of these harder words. But here they expect you to know what to subsume means. Subsumed means absorbed. And so if you read it back in the sentence, that wouldn't make the most sense. It also wouldn't make sense that this is predictive of donation size. That, doesn't work. Supplemental to would not make the most sense. Independent of makes the most sense in this context. So I kind of wanted to go over a hard one from the book just so you could see that, yeah, they're saying that the difficulty level of these words is effectively capped, but subsume, you're calling that a tier 2 word? It just surprised me to see that in the book. And I've seen similar ones on the actual practice tests, all 6 practice tests. Every now and then you'll see some easier ones like we did, where the vase is priced, it's marked at whatever $12 to $14. We'll see some easy ones, but every now and then you're going to see a harder one that I think they're kind of pushing this tier 2 difficulty level, if it makes sense. I think that they are getting harder. So I just wanted to cover that, sort of just the difficulty level you should expect on the test. Next, we're going to talk about text structure and purpose. All right, so they might ask you about the main purpose of the text. And this is similar to a main idea question. We saw those main idea questions last week in the last English packet we did on information and ideas. There's going to be a similar type of question here with the text structure and purpose. All right, so text structure and purpose questions require you to demonstrate an understanding of how an author constructs a text and to what purpose. To understand an author's purpose, consider questions such as, what is this text's fundamental claim, or what is this passage primarily about? Okay, so I'm going to read the example, and we're just asked about the main purpose of this text. So try it. Don't look at the answer. Give this one a real try, and then we will. I'm just going to read it out loud, but try it with me. Wildfires in Colombia usually follow a December to March dry season, and the number of fires varies yearly. A study from 2000 through 2020 determined that Colombia typically experiences 100 to 300 wildfires in January. Since the nation began collecting wildfire data in 1998, January 2024 represents the first time the month's total has exceeded 500 wildfires. Okay, so we said that for January, it's typically 100 to 300. Now we're at 500. That is significantly higher. So we were asked about the main purpose of this text. I'm going to read the last sentence of it. Climate change likely has played a role in their increase in frequency and severity. So we do have a hypothesis. The author's saying maybe this is due to climate change. All right, let's look at B. It presents what is the main purpose of the text? It presents the working hypothesis of a study that remains unresolved. Do we have a resolution? Yeah, they're saying it's climate change, likely. So I'm going to cross off B. C, does this passage attempt to downplay the ecological importance of wildfires in Colombia? Not at all. If you thought it was C, you're misreading the document. D, it establishes that wildfires in Colombia have remained at their anticipated frequency. And of course, they have not. They have increased, which is why the main purpose of this text must be A. The purpose is that it outlines historical data on wildfires. So we have the historical data right here. And then we have a likely cause for their increase, climate change. So that one was A. We'll ask you about purpose. All right. Authors organize material within a text in logical ways to reinforce their central claims. Text structure questions will ask you to make determinations about the makeup of the passage as a whole or the function of a particular underlined portion within the passage. All right, so let's look at a text structure example. All right, so here we have an underlined portion, and just always read where we have our document, what it came from. In this case, it's from a short story. So this is from a Mark Twain story, The Celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras County. So try this one without looking at the answer. I'm going to read it aloud as you do it. Simon Wheeler backed me into a corner and blockaded me there with his chair, and then sat down and reeled off the monotonous narrative which follows this paragraph. He never smiled. He never frowned. He never changed his voice from the gentle flowing key to which he tuned his initial sentence. He never betrayed the slightest suspicion of enthusiasm. But all through the interminable narrative, there ran a vein of impressive earnestness and sincerity, which showed me plainly that, so far from his imagining that there was anything ridiculous or funny about his story, he regarded it as a really important matter and admired its two heroes as men of transcendent genius in finesse. I let him go on his own way and never interrupted him once. Which choice best describes the function of the underlined sentence in the text as a whole? So we're asked about the structure of this text and this underlined sentence. I'm going to go through some answer choices, and if it seems like they're incorrect, we're going to cross them off. What about answer choice A? Does this statement concede that particular elements of Wheeler's story have been partially forgotten? Do we have any indication that Wheeler has forgotten some of the story? I'm going to cross it off. There's no indication in this passage that that is the case. Do we have anything that undermines Wheeler's credibility? I don't think so. I'm going to cross it off. I think he's a credible witness. We can take his whatever this story is, we can take it as fact. Probably a truthful story. He seems to be a credible witness. I have nothing to the contrary here. Is there anything in this statement about Wheeler that indicates that what he is sharing is to remain in confidence? Is this a secret? There's nothing in that underlined portion that reveals that the story is to be kept in confidence. The correct answer would be C. It informs the reader that a fantastic story will follow, and it will be told with complete seriousness. And I'm gonna just highlight that portion. So where is the fantastic part? It's right here. And where is the seriousness? Right here. Earnestness and sincerity. So that's our combination. We know that some kind of ridiculous or funny story is going to follow, but it's told with a straight face, with deadpan, delivery. That is C. So that's a text structure and purpose type question. Just try them the same way we've been doing them before. Just eliminate answer choices that are unsupported by the statement, and then go with the most logical answer choice. In this case, we will have a fantastic story that is told with complete seriousness. All right. There's a discrepancy here, right? There's a contradiction being set up, and I think that's the whole gag of this short story if we were to read it. All right, cross-text connections. These are the paired passages. So there are two different authors, author 1 and author 2, and they're each talking about a similar topic. They probably do not agree with one another. So I've seen maybe two authors discussing fracking, and maybe the first author supports this idea, and maybe the second author is more of a con voice. There's a pro and con relationship between the two passages, even though they're both talking about the same topic, fracking. Maybe one supports it and maybe one's against it for environmental reasons or whatever reason. Just keep in mind that the authors likely disagree with one another. Maybe they agree, maybe author 2 agrees with author 1, but to a lesser extent. There may be some subtlety to the relationship between the two. It's not always just a pro and con relationship, but they will be talking about the same idea, the same topic, but just get used to the idea that they probably do not agree with one another. The vast majority of the time. It's rare that they would agree with one another. All right, so this is the paired passage. All right, I'm going to go over these bullet points because these are important. You may be asked to select a statement with which the two authors would likely agree. That's a very common type of question with this. You may be asked to identify a point of disagreement between the two authors. This is highly likely. The authors probably do not agree 100% with one another. They probably have a different perspective on the same issue. And here's our third bullet point. You may be asked how one author would likely react to a statement made by the other author. This is a super common question. This is probably the most difficult of these 3 bullet points. You'll be asked to put yourself in the shoes of author 2 and make a judgment call about something that author 1 says in his passage. It's a super common question. That's why we drill these. That's why we practice these. And that's higher level thinking. That's sort of the level of thinking that you would be required to do in college. Could I place myself in someone else's shoes and think about what he or she would say about another author's argument? That's hard to do. Yeah, so I think that's why they test it. So we're going to look at an example for the cross text, the paired passage. So I'm going to read these passages. We're going to try these together. Don't look at the answer yet. So it looks like they're both talking about the topic of gentrification, and these authors probably disagree with one another. Just get used to the idea that we have 2 different authors here, and they probably are not in agreement. I'm going to read the passages, and they're asking us how the author of text 2 would respond to the underlined statement in text 1. I'm going to read the first author's passage. Often criticized as the adverse consequence of a city's own success, the process of gentrification, to the contrary, provides the revitalization that is sorely needed in many rundown neighborhoods. Gentrification brings with it the promise of lower crime rates, increased economic activity, and fewer abandoned properties. Here's the underlined statement. Concentrated areas of poverty produce a heavy burden on public resources, and urban redevelopment greatly eliminates this strain. Additionally, the increase in property taxes associated with urban revival provide the funding necessary for better schools, better public transportation, and public works such as parks and community centers. So that's what our first author says about gentrification. Let's see what our second author says. Those who argue that the well-to-do middle class should be free to move into any area they wish do not appreciate the reality that lower-class families inhabiting formerly affordable properties in developing neighborhoods are unable to move into the high-opportunity neighborhoods that the gentrifiers have chosen to leave. What makes the gentrification of our urban neighborhoods a troubling case is that once enough of the privileged classes settle in a historically diverse lower-class urban neighborhood, the property values increase along with the rent. Families who have inhabited a single neighborhood for generations are uprooted when they can no longer afford to live in their own homes. Okay, so I would say that these authors do not agree about gentrification. They're both talking about the same topic, but they will not agree with one another. So how would the second author respond to the underlined statement from the first passage? I'm just going to highlight it here. All right, how would author 2 respond to this statement? Concentrated areas of poverty produce a heavy burden on public resources, and urban redevelopment greatly eliminates this strain. I'm going to go through some answer choices. Let's see if we can cross them off. How would author 2 respond? Answer choice A, lower class families will be able to find new housing in other places when gentrification occurs. The second author would not agree with this statement. The second author says that lower class families are displaced and they cannot afford to live in the neighborhoods that the gentrifiers have left. So we can cross off A. What about B? Gentrification improves neighborhoods that have historically experienced poverty and decline. Would the author of passage 2 say this? No, that's author 1. Did you notice that? The wrong answer choices are often the other author. We're asked about what author 2 thinks. Author 2 would not agree with that statement. That's what the first author is arguing. C, gentrification is a necessary evil that must be endured to revitalize impoverished areas. That's something that the first author may agree with, not author 2. Author 2 would say this. Families that have historically inhabited a newly gentrified area are unfairly displaced. That's what our second author would agree with. So yeah, just keep in mind, this is a very common type of question. They like to ask you, okay, what would author 2 say about this statement from author 1? All right, so that one was D. All right, now I'm going to unleash you on some to try. So the first one is just a fill in the blank type question. You're just going to see which word makes the most logical sense in the context of that passage. Number two is a main idea question or a main purpose question. Number three is another fill in the blank question. Number four is a synonym question. And number five is another fill in the blank question. So try these five. We are going to add up how many we get right out of five. I think it's important to keep track of this. If we're getting all of them correct, you're going to be very ready for the SAT. So, or the ACT. So try these five and going to take about 5 minutes. We'll go over them together.
No. Wow, good point. My gosh, thank you. Aw, thanks. It's too late, you can't delete it. That mushroom pasta was good. How much did it cost? Probably $50. Hmm? Didn't go through.
It says you read it. You probably deleted the message. You deleted it.
You can delete messages. No, you can.
Yeah, buddy.
So Hannah, are you trying the questions? All right, it's been 5 minutes, so let's go over the 5 questions. We'll start with the fill in the blank question. Just going to read the words back in the sentence. One will make sense. The other words will not make sense. All right, here we go. In an education system that is increasingly dependent on technology, such as smartphones, tablets, and the internet in general, students in economically disadvantaged situations are finding difficulty completing their online homework assignments at home. If educators plan to continue to rely so heavily on access to such technology, government programs to connect these students must be funded to blank a level playing field in education. So I'm just going to read the word enhance back in the sentence. Let's try to eliminate some answer choices. If educators plan to continue to rely so heavily on access to such technology, government programs to connect these students must be funded to enhance a level playing field in education. And that doesn't make sense. We can't enhance a level playing field. I'm going to cross it off. Could we exclude a level playing field in education? I don't think that makes sense. I'm going to cross it off. What about dispossess? Programs to connect these students must be funded to dispossess a level playing field in education. That's gibberish. Let's try maintain, the correct answer. If educators plan to continue to rely so heavily on access to such technology, government programs to connect these students must be funded to maintain a level playing field in education. And that makes perfect sense. So that one is D. We just picked D. On to the next one. It's a purpose question. So they want to know about the purpose of the text. So this is autobiography. This is incidents in the life of a slave girl written by herself. I'm going to read the excerpt and we have to identify the purpose. All right, here we go. You may believe what I say, for I write only that whereof I know. I was 21 years in that cage of obscene birds. I can testify from my own experience and observation that slavery is a curse to the whites as well as to the blacks. It makes the white fathers cruel and sensual, the sons violent and licentious. It contaminates the daughters and makes the wives wretched. And as for the colored race, it needs an abler pen than mine to describe the extremity of their sufferings, the depth of their degradation. All right, so I'm going to go through some of the answer choices and see if I can eliminate any of them. What about A? Does the text argue that the institution of slavery has always existed and will continue to exist? The passage does not make that claim. I can cross it off. B, does it emphasize the disproportionate power dynamic between master and slave? Not primarily. That's not the purpose of the passage. D, does it indicate that attitudes regarding the tolerance of slavery will change as society progresses? The passage doesn't make that claim. Primarily, the purpose of the passage would be C. It establishes the all-encompassing corruptive nature of the institution of slavery. So here is the all-encompassing part. It makes the white fathers cruel and sensual. The sons violent and licentious. That means the same thing as lascivious. It contaminates the daughters, makes the wives wretched. And as far as her own race is concerned, she can't even go there. She can't even begin to explain the amount of degradation that slavery causes. All right, so that's a purpose question. They'll ask you about the purpose of the passage. On to the next one. 3. It's another fill in the blank question. And consider the charges of the words. I like to put little plus or minus signs. Just jot them down with the words sometimes. I find that helps. I'm going to put a plus here. I'm going to put some minuses in here. All right. The rapid expansion of a seaweed called sargassum is threatening Caribbean islands. Scientists believe the unrestricted growth of the algae is partly fueled by fertilizer runoff from the Mississippi and Amazon river systems. Increased levels of phosphate and nitrogen combined with warming temperatures from climate change have blanked dramatic growth of the sargassum, which washes up on beaches, creating large decaying masses that threaten local ecosystems. Okay, I'm just going to read some answer choices back in there, or maybe you just noticed the difference in charge for our words. Let's try hindered or blighted. Increased levels of phosphate and nitrogen. And if you're a gardener at all, you would probably know what, if you give your plants phosphate and nitrogen, they're going to get huge, right? All right, increased levels of phosphate and nitrogen combined with warming temperatures from climate change have hindered or blighted their growth. Makes no sense. Harmed would make no sense. Let's try spurred. Increased levels of phosphate and nitrogen combined with warming temperatures from climate change have spurred dramatic growth of the sargassum. That makes perfect sense. So that one was C. On to number 4. It's a synonym question. They want a synonym for the word symmetry. A print by Katsushika Hokusai in the Smithsonian Design Museum depicts a fisherman casting lines out from a cliff amidst tumultuous sea waves before a backdrop of Mount Fuji. The bending fisherman and his lines mirror the triangle created by Mount Fuji. Such symmetry is characteristic of Japanese art of this time period. So we could read the words back in the sentence. That might be a good strategy for this type of question. Or we just realize what it means for something to be symmetrical. If something is symmetrical, as much as is on this side of it, it will be on this side. If it's symmetrical. Dissonance is the opposite of consonance. You may be tempted to pick beauty or craft. If you read them back in the sentence, it would almost make logical sense. I mean, we do find symmetrical things to be beautiful, but that's not primarily what the word symmetry means. If I look it up in a dictionary, it means balance. It means just as much of the figure on this side is on this side if they're symmetrical. So I'm going to read balance back in the sentence. The bending fisherman and his lines mirror the triangle created by Mount Fuji. Such symmetry is characteristic of Japanese art of this time period. Such balance is characteristic of Japanese art of this time period. So that word is synonymous here. On to the last one. Researchers, and again, consider the charges. Look at these pejorative words. Irrelevant, arbitrary, advantageous, incompatible. I mean, I haven't even read the question yet. I'm already thinking about an answer. Think about the charge of the words. Researchers at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology have fabricated a new type of polymer patterned after the silk of spider webs. 8 hydrogen bonds allow the material to have in blank mixture of strength and elasticity. Okay. If you read any of the negatively charged words in here, it wouldn't make any sense. An arbitrary mix of strength and elasticity, what is that? What's an irrelevant mix of, why are we even talking about it if it's an irrelevant? Let's try the right answer, advantageous. 8 hydrogen bonds allow the material to have an advantageous mix of strength and elasticity. All right, so add up how many you got right out of 5. Maybe I got 4 out of 5. That means I'm probably in the 600s for my English score. If you got 5 out of 5, if you've got all of these, you're probably in the 700s, maybe high 700s. I'm going to do some ones from the book. So I'm going to get you a page number. We're going to try some ones from the book. And then we'll probably be finished right around 8:30. So I'm just going to find some random ones from the book. This is 28% of the test. This is a good chunk of the test. So I mean, I think it makes sense to drill these. I'm going to just get you page numbers. One moment. I think we're going to do 10 from the book. So we are going to add up how many we got right out of 10. Let me just find the page number. Oh, okay, here we go. Craft and structure. So there'll be some paired passages. There'll be some fill in the blanks. There'll just be a little mix of everything here. This is page 149. So turn to page 149 in the blue book. We're going to do the craft and structure drills. So here we have 10 questions total. Try all 10. Don't look at the answers. I think it makes sense to treat this as a real assignment. I think it makes sense to practice these. So give them an honest try. Don't look at the answers. I know that the answers will be in the back, but we were don't look at them. And it looks like the paired passages start around question 8. So try all 10 of these. give us a few minutes, and then we'll go over them together, and then that'll be it for tonight. So give these ones a try from the book, page 149. All right, I'm going to start going over these just in the interest of time. Hopefully you made it to the paired passages. I don't care if you, I mean, it would be good if you got all 10 of them done, but we're running out of time. Hopefully you made it all the way to at least 8 or so. So if you're still working, that's fine, but running out of time, so I'm going to go over these. Keep track of how many you miss. If you miss it, we're going to write down, you know, that we missed it. All right, so the first one is a fill in the blank question. We need a word that can fill the blank. All right, biologist Jane Edgelow and colleagues have located what is believed to be the largest individual plant in the world in the Shark Bay area of Australia. The plant is a type of seagrass called Posidonia australis, and it blanks approximately 200 square kilometers. So just read the words back in the sentence. If you read acknowledges in there, that would make no sense. Produce, can we produce kilometers? That makes no sense. How about spans? Right answer. It spans approximately 200 square kilometers. So just read the words back in the sentence. On to number 2. Osage Nation citizen Randy Tinker Smith produced and directed the ballet Washazi, which vividly chronicles Osage history and culture. Telling Osage stories through ballet is blank choice because 2 of the foremost ballet dancers of the 20th century were Osage, sisters Maria and Marjorie Tallchief. And think about the charge of these words. An arbitrary choice, an unpredictable choice. How about suitable choice? Suitable makes the most sense here. So telling Osage stories through ballet is a suitable choice because 2 of the foremost ballet dancers of the 20th century were Osage. These people, Maria and Marjorie Tallchief, not too bad. They do get harder as you go though, right? So now we're asked for a synonym, but for this entire phrase, not just a single word. All right, so this is from a short story. John had on several occasions attempted to reconcile his mother to the notion, but found it a difficult task. Maddie always took refuge in self-pity and tears. Her son's desires were incomprehensible to her. That was all. Okay, so they tell us John wants to travel far beyond the village. As used in the text, what does the phrase reconcile his mother to most nearly mean? And I think that they're trying to trick you. The idea here, like maybe if we reconcile with one another, we forgive that person, we're talking to them again, we're reconciled. I think they're trying to trick you into thinking it's reunite or apologize for. But John is actually trying to get his mother to accept the idea that he would travel. So if we're reconciling someone to something, that means get them to accept it. I think that there's some trap answers there. That one was A. They might ask you about a whole phrase. Next is a structure question. They want to know about the overall structure of this passage for number 4. Just a few more. All right. Micheline Peasant to be, a historian and citizen of the Choctaw Nation, has identified a dilemma inherent to research on the status of women in her tribe during the 1600s and 1700s. The primary sources from that era, travel narratives and other accounts by male European colonizers, underestimate the degree of power conferred on Choctaw women by their traditional roles in political, civic, and ceremonial life. Peasant to be argues that the Choctaw oral tradition and findings from archaeological sites in the tribe's homeland supplement the written record by providing crucial insights into those roles. Which choice describes the overall structure of the text? Do we say that we should avoid those sources altogether? That's going too far. Too far. Author never makes that claim. I'm going to cross it off. All right. How about B? Describes a problem that arises in research on a particular topic. I underlined the problem. They underestimate the degree of power conferred to Choctaw women by their traditional roles. And what is a statement of the historian's approach to addressing the problem? It's this. Let's supplement the written record by providing crucial insights into those roles with the oral tradition. All right, on to the next one, number 5. All right, so this is from a novel. Shakti is walking near a riverbank that she visited frequently during her childhood. She crossed the woods she knew so well. The trees seemed to extend their branches like welcoming arms. So here we have personification. We are giving human qualities to non-human things, in this case, trees. So the trees are extending their branches like welcoming arms. That's personification. What effect does the personification have on the text? C, it emphasizes Shakti's sense of belonging to the landscape, welcoming arms. All right, that's personification. On to number 6. So here we have an excerpt from Oscar Wilde's work, De Profundis. Who can calculate the orbit of his own soul? So here we have a rhetorical question. A rhetorical question is a question that is said not for a literal answer. It is said rather for an effect. Am I asking you a question that you could possibly answer? Who can calculate the orbit of his own soul? I can. I'm that person. No, of course, this question is said for effect, not for a literal answer. I'm going to give you an example of something that is not a rhetorical question. What time is it? That's a real question with a real answer, but this is a rhetorical question. This is said for effect. C, this rhetorical question reinforces the text's skepticism about the possibility of truly achieving self-knowledge. On to number 7. All right, so here's a question. We have a study on stream biodiversity. So the biologist Jingli Jiam and colleagues studied an Indonesian oil plantation. All right, I'm going to go through some of the wrong answers. Did they look at other kinds of agricultural environments? No. What about C? Do we have a debate about how agricultural yields can be increased? There's nothing in this passage about agricultural yields. I'm gonna cross it off. D, are we asked about a previously held view? No, this one was A. We have a study about an unresolved question. The unresolved question is biodiversity. And just a couple more, we're on to the paired passages. All right, so number 8, we're reading about the same jazz choreographer in both passages. Would the audiences, do we expect that the audiences were mostly unfamiliar with the jazz music in Ailey's works? We have no indication of that. I'm going to cross it off. That's a baseless claim. D, are we talking about multiple genres of music? No, just jazz. This one was B. Ailey's work was strongly influenced by jazz. Both passages talk about that fact. On to number 9. All right, time moves in only one direction. I am firmly in that camp, and we're almost out of time. All right. This one was not D. I underlined some of the problems with D. This one was B. It provides empirical evidence that the current understanding of an aspect of physics at a microscopic level must be incomplete. That's what the author of passage 1 would say about the experiment from text 2. Last one. All right, so here we have an Aztec script. All right, author 1 says that many scholars assumed that the symbols signified entire words. Linguist Alfonso Lacadena theorized that they were smaller than words. They were syllables. The second author says it could be words or syllables. Interesting. So a little bit of a disparity there. All right, what would the author of text 2 say about the theory from text 1? All right, text 1 says that they are smaller than words, that they are syllables, not entire words. So I'm going to cross off A. B, would the author of text 2 argue that the theory is overly influenced by the work of earlier scholars? What earlier scholars? I'm going to cross it off. C, by approving of the theory's emphasis on how the script changed over time. Do we have any indication of how the script changed over time? No, we do not. No mention of that. No mention. All right, last one. Would the author of text 2 caution that the theory overlooks certain aspects of how the script functioned? Yes. It overlooks Make a note of what it overlooks. Overlooks syntax and content. All right. That one was D. So add up how many you got right out of 10. If you're getting 9 out of 10 right, you're in the 700s. You're good. In 3 weeks, when you take the SAT, you're going to do amazingly well. If you're still getting like maybe 7 or 8 of these right, I mean, it's still okay, but try to maximize your score here. This is 28% of the test. All right, I'm done. I just wanted to tell you, please take practice test 3 in Blue Book if you have not taken it already. We're less than 3 weeks out from the SAT, so that's important. So take practice test 3 if you have not, or take an ACT from the book. That's all I have. So you can sign yourselves off if you're happy with everything. Just make sure you wrote how many you got wrong. Thanks, Anesh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zoe. Thanks, Ahana. And thank you, Justin. I am out. Good night.